When you think of JLC and the watch that best epitomizes the brand, many are quick to mention the Reverso, and rightfully so. Yet one of the often overlooked collections in a modern context is with the Polaris, a sportier option from JLC with some strong history on its side. But today we're going to be looking at the Polaris Automatic, a three-hand automatic watch with an internal bezel and a member of a watch family that is perhaps one of the most untapped for this great brand. Let's take a closer look. Now, before we jump into this video, we're going to be looking at this kind of compressor style dual crown design with an internal bezel. And when I'm looking at watches like that, I think another just brand as well as model that comes to mind immediately is with the Longines Legend Diver. This watch is available on TeddyBaldassarre.com and is one of my personal favorites from the Heritage collection from Longines, and probably for many other people as well, considering how well this one does and is positioned within the market. It just recently was updated with some different dial variations, as well as some different case materials, with the most recent being in bronze. We have several available on TeddyBaldassarre.com, so definitely go check that out. Link in the description below. In order to understand the Polaris in a modern context, it's important to address the watch's unique diving pedigree and position in JLC's considerable archive. The earliest origins of this design date back to 1959 and the Memovox Deep Sea Alarm, which combined a water-resistant dual crown and internal bezel case concept produced by EPSA with the first audible alarm complication to be housed within a dive watch. Perhaps too early for its time, the Memovox DSA was only produced in extreme limited quantities and now is one of the most highly collectible JLC models for vintage collectors. Years later, JLC officially released the first watch under the Polaris banner in 1968, complete with 3 crowns as well as an improved version of the underwater alarm system pioneered by the brand with the Deep Sea Alarm. While also capable of diving with a super compressor case, again provided by EPSA, the Polaris Memovox was marketed as more of a general sports watch for what JLC described as a man of action during the period. Despite how interesting and novel the original Polaris was, the initial production run was also limited and eventually discontinued in 1969, getting a quick refresh in the early 1970s and being dubbed the Polaris 2. The Polaris name only existed in the heart of JLC enthusiasts for decades, right up until the release of the almost one-to-one reissue in 2008, known as the Memovox Tribute to Polaris, followed by a relaunch of the entire Polaris collection in 2018, which included another limited edition, but also the more restrained time-only Polaris Automatic, the watch we'll be looking at today. So why I thought this watch was interesting in terms of coverage, despite it being a bit less true to its origins, is that it is a watch for me that is a great answer for an everyday sports piece from a luxury perspective. For the dive watch purist, this might not be as appealing as the Polaris Mariner or the Mariner Memovox, but those looking for more mass market appealing, versatile just watch on the wrist with a capable water resistance of 100 meters, this is more than appropriate for just around $8,000 retail on a bracelet. Also, I see this line as probably one of the most untapped from JLC, and I see a ton of potential if they just made a few changes to this watch. Starting with this watch's most attention-grabbing attribute, the Polaris Automatic has 2 non-screw-down signed crowns, a design reminiscent of the original super compressor cases utilized in the JLC DSA. While the dual crown concept is of course vintage in its origins, the execution in this case is distinctly modern and makes use of JLC's well-known case finishing capabilities with a brushed top and side with easily distinguished brush strokes that complement the high-polished edge of the lugs. The watch comes in with a 41mm diameter, 47.2mm lug to lug, and 11mm with its thickness. With all those factors at play, the Polaris wears closer to that of a 40mm case given its condensed lug to lug measurement. However, with the execution of an internal bezel, it will just optically make the dial appear a tad larger with its visual appeal. Thickness is also impressive here, coming in at just over 11mm, meaning this watch wears in a low profile manner befitting its position on the more refined side of the sports watch spectrum, while also making a statement about the prowess of JLC's movement making capabilities. Set between 20mm lugs, we have a bracelet in an H-link design format. The outer links in this case are highly polished, with the smaller center links being vertically brushed in the same fashion as the other case elements. With everyday wear, I could imagine these outer polished links would just eventually show their wear, but marks on the outer links tend to be less detectable than those operating with a polished center link format. The bracelet does opt for traditional pins rather than screws, which is strange to see in this price range, but any question of cutting corners are laid to rest when examining the signed 18mm clasp. Coming in a butterfly style, it is presenting a set of pushers on both sides that independently release their respective side. Operation is impressive and secure, and each side also exhibits a fold-out extension that can be accessed without the need of tools, aiding around 4mm of additional length to each side. Taking up a view of the watch's anterior surface, we have a sapphire crystal executed with a subtle dome and complete with AR coating that works well in this instance, securing a clear view of the dial surface underneath, even at extreme angles. With JLC being a brand associated with finishing ability, the deep blue Polaris Automatic doesn't disappoint, pairing sporty elements with a refined level of execution. At the dial outskirts, we have that internal rotating bezel, here simply adorned with a prominent triangle at noon containing lume, numerical markings at the 15, 30, and 45-minute positions, and circular indicators elsewhere. Moving inwards, a simple minute track which slopes down towards the bezel. This is handled by the printed white hash marks with applied Arabics and trapezoidal indices just within, each filled with white luminescent material that works well enough in practice while lagging behind some of the other giants in the space. The central dial surface is recessed, offering a three-dimensional effect bolstered by a glossy finish inside the circle as opposed to the matte grain execution around the indices, with only the JLC signature and automatic breaking up the otherwise straightforward design. Despite its elevated looks, the dial layout paired with this lume baton style handset makes this piece highly legible, adding to the argument for this watch as a solid luxury sports option beyond the usual suspects in the space. However, with this being a JLC, let's discuss the movement. In this case with the well-finished caliber 898E1. Viewed through the Sapphire exhibition caseback, this Polaris runs in a true in-house caliber from JLC, a brand with roots in movement production dating back to 1833, providing calibers to nearly every notable prestigious brand in the world of high horology. The caliber within this JLC is finished to a much higher degree than you might expect from a watch of this style in this price range. In terms of its specs, the 898E1 is fairly traditional, with a 28,800 vibration per hour 4 Hz beat rate, 31 joules, but unfortunately only a 40-hour power reserve, a reserve that is now behind the competition in what is being offered. Yet where this movement might falter with its power reserve, it makes up for it with its finish. It offers a unidirectionally winding skeletonized sine rotor executed in a darker tone, helping to make increasingly prominent the graining and Côte de Genève finish across. More Geneva waves are found on the bridges, purling on the base plate, blued screws, a free-sprung balance assembly, and golden engravings on those bridges. The 898E and this watch comes with the 1,000 hours testing certification as well. This is an internal testing standard done by JLC to help ensure optimal chronometric performance, resistance against temperature changes and atmospheric pressure, robustness against shock and magnetic fields, waterproof testing, and power reserve testing, all while conducting these tests with a fully cased up product. Again, just unpacking this movement, we're looking at 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hz. It does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stopping the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and has a power reserve of 40 hours. So with this watch maybe not being in alignment with the purists that are huge fans of the Polaris collection, why cover this watch compared to maybe something else? When you look at the Polaris Mariner Memovox as well as some other offerings within the Polaris collection, they do lean into the roots of this collection a bit more, and just the lineage of dive watches with the Memovox as well as just Polaris in general. But why I wanted to cover this piece is because I think it is almost just so untapped by the brand, where I just see a ton of upside here. Now this 41mm case is a little bit larger for a watch than I think that this one is going for. And I think the problem with this piece is it's kind of trying to dip its toe in the waters of two different styles. One, you have more of that traditional everyday style, and then you also have this world of the Polaris and the Memovox that it maybe wants to get involved with without maybe outside of just some artificial looks on the surface, really offering much in that direction. Now, in no way am I saying this is a bad watch. I absolutely adore the look of this watch and I think it looks great, but I understand the purists that might be against it as well. But with all that factored in, I still see this as an incredible offering from JLC that I think that they need to back up a little bit more. I think if JLC was able to take this package, bring it down to 39 millimeters, keep many of the same attributes going in its favor with its finish, the bracelet, also the movement on the inside, maybe extending the power reserve if they can mess around with that. But you look around in the marketplace and see what's happening. Rolex is becoming increasingly less available. You have Omega with the Aquaterra, which of course is a great offering, Zenith with the DeFi. There is more room to grow in this sub $10,000 range for an everyday do-it-all luxury watch. And I see potential with this one that I don't feel is being fully tapped by JLC. Now, I speak more to a consumer that is looking directly at this from an enthusiast perspective, but I think enthusiasts would go crazy if this could just maybe be repositioned in a way that could have some more appeal and kind of be that watch that I think so many people are looking for right now, that can do everything, be a watch that can of course exude craftsmanship and luxury. And I can't really think of a better brand that does that sub $10,000 than JLC in many instances. And I think they've already begun with the framework of this by just starting with this piece, making some small changes, and I think there will be some great upsides with it. Just a ton of untapped potential here, but I'm a huge fan of this Polaris line. But all right guys, I'd love to see your comments down below. What are your thoughts on this Polaris? Do you agree with my point about this being some untapped potential here from JLC? And what are your general thoughts on this entire line? If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. That does help out the channel. Definitely check out those Legend divers on TeddyBaldassarre.com. Very happy to announce that we're an authorized dealer of Longines, so be sure to check those out. Huge fan of this brand. I'm very, very proud to have them on the site. TeddyBaldassarre.com, authorized dealer of over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we carry. If you want to stay up to date with the content as well, be sure to follow on Instagram. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.